Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online VGC 15 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Still kicking it with the sand team we've been featuring throughout the week, so we're just going to jump onto the ladder and see how high we can go. Currently sitting with a rating of 1605 with 8 wins and 1 loss. Played 2 games off screen to see if I could climb any higher, but unfortunately I split them. So we'll see how much higher we can go with this new team. It has been a lot of fun to use. I really do like the sand archetype this year, and I do think Scarf Tar plus Extra Drill is a really deadly combo. And Special Mega Salamence is also a lot of fun to use, so I've really been enjoying my time with this team. We're going to find Free from California with a rating of 1545 to kick off today's episode. And as always, if you enjoy Road to Rank, please share your support by leaving a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Free here has got quite the interesting team, and we actually have a Sand Mirror match. He's got Lopunny, Gengar, Tyranitar, Excadrill, Rotom Wash, and Scizor. So pretty interesting because Lopunny is probably the Mega Evolution, though Gengar can be a potential one as well. It's very rare to see normal Lopunny though by itself. And obviously we've got the Tyranitar Excadrill Mirror match here, which can be quite problematic. Though I do think Amoonguss is really good in this match because it can just kind of put everything to sleep, and my opponent doesn't have many great answers to it. So I'm definitely going to want to lead with the Amoonguss. Actually leaning towards Salamence here just because it puts some pressure against the Scizor, and I can Spore away with the Amoonguss. So I actually like Salamence Scizor a lot here, I think. For the back two, I'm really inclined to not bring my own sand here, so I think Rotom Wash can be pretty helpful. For the last one, it's really between Excadrill, hoping like he brings his own sand, or Aegislash here. Aegislash is definitely decent as well, and I'm actually leaning towards it. If anything, I'm just going to have to want to watch out for Tyranitar plus Excadrill, but I don't know if that's really the smartest decision on my opponent's end to bring. So you know what? I'm not going to bring any sand at all, and I'm going to go with my 4 non-sand users, or, you know, I don't need Tyranitar or Excadrill here. I mean, Tyranitar really doesn't do very well. Sure, it's got that Scarf superpower, which can actually pick up knockouts on Tyranitar, Excadrill, and Lopunny, but I don't know if what item his Tyranitar has. He can outspeed me with Excadrill and get an Iron Head / Earthquake off. Rotom Wash can burn me, Scizor can Bullet Punch or even get a super effective Bug Bite off. Gengar can burn it as well. And so basically, like, the reason why I bring Scarf Tar here is to get one attack off, but I'd rather try to win this one based off the bulk of my other Pokemon. For example, I think Tyranitar and Excadrill are the 2 furthest Pokemon on this team. With the Amoonguss support, I do think I can go a long way. If anything, I'm going to have to want to watch out for the Taunt from Gengar, since that's certainly a viable move on Gengar. But I do think Scizor can really help me out here. Amoonguss, excuse me. I was thinking of my opponent's Scizor, who is actually quite a threat here if it has the Lumberry. I would expect one of my opponent's Pokemon to have the Lumberry, so I guess we'll find out and see what it is. He's going to lead with Rotom and Excadrill, though, against my Amoonguss and Salamence, and obviously this is pretty good right from the get-go, just because I get the Intimidate off against Excadrill, and Amoonguss is really good here, given that I can just Spore either of my opponent's users. So, good start, and I mean, he really had no answers to Amoonguss in general. And based off what my opponent had, I'm pretty glad with the Pokemon I ended up bringing into this match. But what I'm going to do this first turn is go for the... Let's see. What's the bigger threat? Honestly, I kind of just want to Spore the Rotom slot and Mega Evolve to get the speed boost and Protect. And I could also like Rage Powder Flamethrower, but... Who do I want to Spore? I'm afraid of the Rotom Wash switching out here, so yeah. I'm going to Spore Rotom Wash, Mega Evolve, and Protect here. Worst case scenario, Rotom protects and Excadrill goes for a Rock Slide. Looks like my opponent's staying in with both of his Pokemon, so that's good. And it's very rare for a Rotom Wash to carry Lumberry, unless it's like a Lum Rest set, if anything, but that's not exactly very common. Chesto Berry with Rest, my little brother actually used that Worlds back in the day. He actually just goes straight for the Earthquake with Excadrill, so that's fine by me. This Amoonguss is very defensively built, so he should be able to take that with relative ease. Did more than I expect, though, and that's because he does have Life Orb. That's actually really good information for me here, since I can just go for the Flamethrower next turn to knock it out, as I do get the Spore off against the Rotom Wash as well. So I think my opponent's team was just not well equipped to deal with Amoonguss in general. He doesn't have any Fire-type attackers, and this next turn I'm going to just be able to get a free Giga Drain off against Rotom. The question here is, do I want to Flamethrower Excadrill, or do I want to predict a Tyranitar switch-in? You know what? I'll still go for the Flamethrower. I think Rotom is going to switch out into Tyranitar here, but the main thing is I don't want to lose too much offense, and he doesn't switch out. Wow. So Flamethrower should knock out Excadrill here? Yes, it does. Gets a critical hit, though I don't think that really mattered, given that Excadrill... well, Excadrill is relatively bulky here, but my Salamence is fully invested in special attack. So, very free turn for me here. I'm surprised my opponent just didn't decide to switch out at all, as Giga Drain does over 50% there as well. So, not the bulkiest of Rotom Washes. It does have Citrus Berry, but interestingly enough, Hyper Voice plus Giga Drain combination should be able to knock it out this next turn. So, really, a perfect 2 turns to start off the game. I'm wondering what's going to come in here. I'm guessing my opponent didn't bring Tyranitar. You know, it would have made a lot of sense to switch to Rotom Wash into Tyranitar last turn, and I almost spored that slot, but I was just going to play it a bit safer. So Lopunny comes in for my opponent, and this might be a pretty quick game here. I'm just going to go for the Spore onto Lopunny, and I mean, he's got to fake out one of my 2. And I'll just go for the Hyper Voice. I don't even mind getting burned by that Rotom Wash since I'm special Salamence. So if he targets Salamence, then I get the Lopunny asleep. If he targets the Amoonguss, then I just knock it out with Hyper Voice. So very, very little my opponent can even do here against the Salamence Amoonguss combination. And once again, I can't stress enough, like, in order to have a good team in VGC 2015, I think you need to be able to check all the counter follow me / rage powder users, so Pokemon like Clefairy. So he actually targets Amoonguss, so Hyper Voice here should just knock out the Lopunny. But you really need to be able to check Amoonguss, Clefairy, Clefable. Those are really the main ones, maybe even Togekiss as well. Because if you don't, they'll just be able to disrupt your team through support and through redirecting attacks. So Lopunny goes down here. Rotom Wash unfortunately takes another turn of sleep as well. And this is the game where using Special Mega Ments was really, really helpful. Or at least mixed. Because you guys know I ran Physical for about forever with like Double Edge Dragon Dance Earthquake. And although Earthquake could have helped out in the beginning, I don't think it could have knocked out the Excadrill. Whereas Flamethrower definitely caught my opponent off guard. Because of the nice Fire type coverage that Salamence has on this one. As he brings in Scizor. So he was just not prepared for Amoonguss at all. And I'm surprised at that. Like, I think one of the marks of a good team in VGC is the ability to check every Pokemon that you can potentially go up against, and Amoonguss is really darn common. But it looks like Scizor has the Aqua Berry here, so giving it an extra turn of, being in the game. But gets the burn there to add insult to injury there, as the Aqua Berry does reduce the burn. Rotom actually takes a 3-turn sleep here, so really not getting to do anything this game. He goes for the knockoff onto Amoonguss, but he's actually going to be taking like more damage from that Rocky Helmet than him doing to me here. So he does get rid of the Rocky Helmet, but Amoonguss gets a Giga Drain off against his Rotom, and that might even knock it out. Yeah. So a very, very quick game 1 for you guys today. Special Mega Ments plus Amoonguss was just really powerful. And you know, this team, that core is quite weak to a potential Tyranitar Excadrill core. For example, if he had Scarftar and Excadrill, he could have just repeatedly spammed Rock Slide, and the chances would not have been in my favor. But because he didn't really bring anything to beat these two, I mean, it'd be tough. Like, if I were in his position, I probably wouldn't have led with Tyranitar Excadrill either, but it looks like this is one of the cases where my opponent just had no way to deal with redirection, and especially Amoonguss. No Lum users, as far as I can tell, no Grass-type Pokemon to take those Spores, nothing to really target through Salamence, no Taunt users either, so pretty, quick sweep for the first game of today's episode. But yeah, I mean, I really gotta stress, like, for those that are building a team in VGC 2015, make sure you have a way to at least shut down Amoonguss. I like Amoonguss a lot because even if teams have that ability to shut it down, I still think it gives you a lot of different rooms for different plays and whatnot. But that was one of the games where if you're not well prepared for Amoonguss, you can kind of just roll through a team, and that was a pretty good example of that. So we're going to jump back onto the ladder now with a rating of 16-19. Let's see if we can pick up another win and bring us to 10 wins and 1 loss. And as I can't really stress enough, when you play earlier on the ladder, it's very easy to pick up wins just because the opponents aren't as typically skilled. But I'd say the first opponent in yesterday's episode was very, very good, even though his rating was like under the 1500. So obviously you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but at the same time, typically slightly quicker games, which is why I think that's a trend for the week. We find Agati from Brazil with a rating of 1553 for our next opponent of the day. Also quite a interesting team here. Politoed, Venusaur, Thundurus, Mamoswine, Braviary, and Lucario. So kind of just looks like everything combined on one team. Like, you never really see a combination of these Pokemon together. For example, it's very, very interesting. I mean, that's all I can really say, just because, like, I've never seen a combination of these. I guess Thundurus Mamoswine makes the most sense to me because of the Earthquake synergy, as well as the Braviary. And Braviary is an interesting Pokemon to talk about because it does get access to Defiant, whereas Bisharp was probably the more common Defiant user earlier on in the season. It's actually dropped in popularity. But Braviary here, pretty cool substitute for that as well. So let's see. Quite a threatening team here, actually, just on first impression. I kind of like leading with Aegislash and Rotom Wash. I think that gives me answers basically against anything my opponent can have. I do want Salamence in the back here, I think, for the Venusaur, but I mean, just like the attacks from Salamence are very good in general. And for the last one, it's between Tyranitar and Amoonguss. Now, Tyranitar would be good because I can shut down the Politoed, I can get Rock Slides off, which would be really, really helpful against Thundurus and Braviary. But Amoonguss here is also really helpful because he doesn't have many great answers to Amoonguss, so I can Spore. But you know, this game looks like my opponent has better checks to Amoonguss. For example, Taunt from that Thundurus potentially, a Flying type attack from Braviary, most likely Brave Bird, and Salamence can also, not Salamence, Venusaur can also attack through my Rage Powders and whatnots, because it is a Grass type. So really trying to decide between the Amoonguss and the Tyranitar here. It's a pretty difficult decision to make, quite honestly. But I'm leaning towards Tyranitar here for the offense, and I think I'm going to go with that. Yep, I'm going to go with Tyranitar. I'm going to lock in here. Just because I'm not confident with taking the game just with Salamence, Rotom, and Aegislash, mainly because Rotom and Aegislash are on the slower end, so they get outsped by a fair amount of my opponent's Pokemon. And then the Salamence is nice, but you know, obviously the Mamoswine on my opponent's team is a threat, as is the Braviary if I walk into Define. It leads with Poly and Thundurus, so this is kind of promising because I can get a free switch into the Tyranitar immediately. Though Rotom Wash and Aegislash deal with this lead matchup pretty nicely as well. So Politoed's obviously going to set up the rain for my opponent, but that's alright with me. Let's see what I want to do this first turn. I think he has no answers really against Rotom Wash at all. I mean, I guess he could like go for a Thunder maybe. But I think I'm actually going to King Shield with Aegislash. Well, actually no. So the thing here is I don't want that Politoed switching out. So I'm very tempted to double up into it this first turn, straight with a Shadow Ball and a Thunderbolt. And I think that's the play I'm going to make here. Yeah, he does have the Thunder though. Interesting. So that's going to do a fair amount of damage to the Rotom Wash. Obviously, I could have switched in Tyranitar here, but Rotom being as bulky as it is takes that relatively well. Politoed actually has the Whack-and-Berry, not the most common item on Politoeds, but it's going to be able to take that Thunderbolt with relative ease. However, I'm going to be able to get a Shadow Ball off here, and with the Life Orb boost, I should be able to knock it out. He gets the Scald off against Aegislash, doesn't burn me, fortunately, so I've gotten pretty lucky in terms of not getting burned by Scald lately. So Aegislash here should be able to get the Shadow Ball off, and that should pick up the KO onto Politoed. But he actually hangs on with a sliver of HP, so pretty nice bulk there on Politoed's end. And because of that, I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to King Shield and actually switch Rotom out into Tyranitar. He could be smart and go for maybe a Thunder and a Scald play onto that Rotom Wash, but I don't want to lose Aegislash here because it's pretty important. I think Rotom Wash is incredibly important in this matchup as well, because especially because of the Mamoswine my opponent might have in the back. So just going to play this as safely as possible, and obviously my opponent opting to run a very, very bulky Politoed there. He goes for the Helping Hand onto Thundurus, so a very nice play. I suspect we're going to see a Helping Hand Thunder come out. But Tyranitar, you know, even if Thunder connects, and obviously hitting Thunder in Sandstorm, not exactly the highest of accuracy. But he does connect, so hopefully he doesn't paralyze. That would be really bad, as, yeah, he doesn't do that much damage. But yeah, he doesn't get the paralysis, which is the most important thing here. Let's see if Politoed goes down. I think he'll be able to hang around. Nope, actually falls to the Sandstorm. So great turn by my opponent there. Kind of frustrating because Tyranitar but had a very high chance of being at full health here. We do see the Mamoswine come in, and I'm actually really happy about that because he's obviously open to just getting hit by Wide Guard. So this first time around, I'm just going to go for the Wide Guard and the Rock Slide here. The Rock Slide should do over 50% around to both Pokemon. I'm wondering what kind of Mamoswine set he is. He might also predict my Wide Guard and go for a Icicle Crash, Icicle Spear, maybe even a Superpower onto the Tyranitar. And if he's Choice Scarfed, obviously he'll be able to outspeed me. But I'm going to get this Wide Guard off this first turn. Let's see if he walks into it, since Earthquake would be so tempting here. As he actually goes for the Rain Dance there with Thundurus. Very interesting. Wasn't anticipating that, but a very cool move for it to use there. So that's going to get rid of my special defense increase. But I am faster than the Mamoswine, which is nice here because it means I get a guaranteed Rock Slide off. So he's not Choice Scarfed, as Rock Slide actually picks up the KO onto Thundurus. Oh, that was a critical hit. I would assume he's the bulkier Thundurus, as he does go for the Earthquake though. So yeah, I mean that actually worked out perfectly. Even if Thundurus didn't feign, it actually could have slightly been in my favor. But really fortunate turn for me there, as he's going to bring out Venusaur. And with the Salamence in the back, I'm definitely feeling pretty confident on my chances of winning this one. So let's see what I want to do here. Still should play it a bit safe though. Let's see. I mean, really, I could just Wide Guard again and Rock Slide. But he could go for a Giga Drain onto a Salamence slot, or the Tyranitar, which I kind of want to switch into Salamence. And this game is definitely not over yet. I feel like with some smart play, my opponent can easily get back into this one. Definitely have to be careful here. You can't really Earthquake here though. You know what? I'm just going to Shadow Ball, Venusaur, and Rock Slide here. I think he's going to protect Mamoswine. and try to attack with Venusaur. Right now, the most important thing is I think my best way of winning this game is just by Salamence coming in and hyper voicing. And with an Intimidate, I can also potentially burn the Mamoswine. So, oh, he actually protects Venusaur, so he's probably just going to go for the Earthquake, which if he does is kind of a questionable play, but a good one at that, I guess. I walked into this one. So if an Earthquake does come out, I'm going to see both my Pokemon going down, unless I get a flinch here. I get a crit there, and I get the flinch! Are you kidding me? I'm sorry, dude. I feel like I deserve to lose both of my Pokemon here. I kind of wish I could just like give it to him because he did outplay me this turn. However, with Salamence and Rotom Wash in the back, I still think I could have closed the game up. I also don't get to find out what item he has with Mamoswine, which is kind of unfortunate. Given that he didn't protect, I'm thinking maybe he's Choice Banded, but he could also be something like Life Orb. So, you know, obviously the flinch and crit definitely hurting a lot. The main thing is Mega Salamence should be bulky enough to take an Ice Shard from that Mamoswine. He's not going to protect with either Pokemon, so I guess Mamoswine doesn't have protect. And I think Rockslide has flinched like every game in today's episode, or not this week's episode, regardless of whether it was on my opponent's end or on my end, as he Leech Seeds Aegislash, but perhaps too late there. I'm also wondering if he went for like an Icicle Crash instead of a Earthquake that last turn. I mean, the Earthquake would make the most sense given that he protected with Venusaur, but I mean, it would have been kind of silly just to walk into yet another wide guard. So I'm not entirely sure what my opponent did that last turn. I think Earthquake would have made the most sense, and if he did go for the Earthquake, then I definitely feel quite bad, but it is what it is. Once again, though, I think Mega Salamence would have been able to get the Intimidate off, so Mamoswine wouldn't have knocked me out, so all I would have to do is actually just like Hyper Voice, or even double into the Venusaur and knock it out, since he had no way to beat my Rotom Wash. And I'm wondering how fast the Venusaur is. My Rotom Wash is pretty fast, so I think I would have been able to outspeed it. But it's just going to be formalities now, as Aegislash and Tyranitar should be able to clean up the game here. So, Scarf Rockslide, really too good. He's going to get that Giga Drain off. Is it enough to knock out Tyranitar? Yeah, it is. So that was what I was thinking, and that Rain Dance was pretty clutch on my opponent's Thundurus. Definitely feel bad about this one just because of the RNG, but I do feel like the matchup was heavily in my favor, so you know, I just had to make safe plays throughout the game to end up winning the one, though. Could have been a potentially scary finish because Ice Shard maybe could have crit me also, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I actually want to do a damage calc on that since I'm not sure how much Ice Shard does to Megamens, so I'm going to go check that out afterwards. But this is one of the games where I feel like it should have been a lot closer, and I should have maybe won, but not by nearly as the margin that I did win by. But, you know, that's the game we choose to play sometimes, and Scarftar, so good. It's really been so clutch throughout the week, so good job, Scarftar. But yeah, shorter episode for you guys today. We're slowly making our way up onto the ladder. We do have 2 more days with this team, I believe. I'm actually interested in whether you guys want to see this team for another week or so, just because, you know, we are climbing the lower ladder, so I'd be interested in seeing how this team fares against maybe higher ranked opponents. So let me know in the comments below. But yeah, another really dominating performance by this team today. That second one definitely got a bit lucky there. Wish I could have, you know, won it without the luck, but such is such. Anyway, that's going to be it for this episode, guys. Thank you for tuning in like always. Leave a like if you did, and I shall see you tomorrow. Alright, peace.